Welcome back, everybody, to the Aliens and Angels podcast. Today, I am so excited to bring back my friend Elsa Dillon. And for those of you who are not quite familiar with Elsa, let me tell you a little bit about her. Elsa Dillon is the mother of 8 children with husband Richard Dillon, and they are a family of 10 experiencers. Both Elsa and Richard are international, excuse me, both Elsa and Richard are international fashion photographers and videographers, shooting celebrities and behind the scenes professionals for magazines and advertising for over 3 decades. This is the Dillons' second incarnation here on Gaia. They are a family of oversouls, all called in together again to incarnate in this realm. They have experienced over 600 beings to date in many forms and multidimensional realities. With their oversoul connections, they receive messages and happenings with the paranormal. All of the links are featured below in the description. Please check us out, subscribe to our channels, leave us comments. I hope you will like my videos and share my content with your friends. And I'm happy to announce that you can now join my YouTube channel, take advantage of my perks, and also help to support the channel. So without further ado, I'll bring on Elsa Dillon. So nice to see you again.
Hi, Karen. Good morning.
Yeah. For those of you who don't know, it's noon here in Canada, where I am, and it's 4 o'clock in the morning for Elsa Dillon, who is in Australia. So, Elsa, I want to thank you so much for getting up super early so you could be on the show today, and it's awesome.
Yeah. Oh, it's a lovely time to be awake. So it's also nice and quiet in our house. So
Mhm.
um,
Yeah, with 8 kids, I can't imagine what it's like sometimes. I go and spend time with my daughter. She has twin daughters that are just turning 6, and after 2 weeks, I'm going, "Oh my God, I gotta go home." It's just like, wow. So, good for you. And then to have a spiritual family, if I could call it that, on top of everything else, your life must be very, very interesting, to say the least.
yeah. Well, it's a lot of noise, and this is a good lead into today because it's the distractions, the noise all the time that stops sometimes shuts spirit off or confuses messages from spirit, and it takes practice. And I really do feel like someone up there threw me in the deep end because the distractions have been a lot more than the normal average 2-kid family. It's
Mhm.
that noise, that noise, that noise.
And the
Yeah,
farm and the animals and
yeah.
work. Yeah, I can't even imagine how you do it. So,
Yeah. So it's
you're def
practice. Everything happens for a reason. So
yeah. So, today it was funny how we came up with the topic today for of mind or through the mind or whatever. I was thinking about it this week, and I was thinking really everything that we experience is created in the mind. And we're programmed as to what's real and what's not real. But it's interesting. I did not find out. I know this is going to sound ridiculous, but I did not find out that we all have our own realities until I was in my 40s. Like I was always taught that there's only one reality. You can have a perspective on that one reality, but to find out that what's real for you may or may not be what's real for me, and it's we have that sovereignty to make up our minds. And so I just thought I would start off by saying that, because I know for myself, my reality is very much mind created. Yeah.
Well, it's this is an interesting word, mind, because so the way we work through it, we say a lot of people describe us as being multidimensional, and it's because we deal with it with this way, this way, this way, this way. So I guess you could say, in one way, that's different realities or realms. So being able to understand it on many levels and many realms gives you an understanding for it. You understand the agendas behind it. And then you get to make this amazing thing that we have is will, a choice.
Mhm.
Once you have an understanding, but if you're only understanding things from one angle, which is okay as well, there's no right or wrong, but if you're only understanding some things from one angle, you literally might be missing the whole show, and that one angle might have a weird agenda to it, which is
Mhm.
what we're finding coming out in the news and media today, is that one reality that was being fed to us has a weird agenda. And so now everyone's having closure of that and opening of other realities, like you said. Is that your cat?
Yeah. Yes, he's decided to pay me a little visit right now.
Oh, who's this?
There. Okay, sweetheart, I got you.
What's his name? Her or him?
Sammy, it's a boy. His name is Sammy. He's a rescue. So both my cats are rescues. So they're kind of a little bit high maintenance emotionally, but I love them to bits. And he's my furry baby. Sorry for the interruption, Elsa.
No, no, no.
Um,
It's important. What's around his neck there? He's got
Oh,
little.
I have a little collar that says I am microchipped on one side and it has my phone number on the other. Unfortunately, I live in a neighborhood where people don't approve of cats going outside. Let's put it that way. Meanwhile, the neighbors all got their dogs barking all hours of the day and night outside, but there's a very strong prejudice against cats for some reason.
This
So,
isn't a. This is a reality. I'm going to bring this up. This is your
yeah,
cat. Well, this is
so
a
I have
commonwealth.
him I have his my phone number and let them know he's microchipped right on his collar. So, and I about once a week, he's so funny. He wanders a little bit, not too much, and he goes into the neighbor's yard, one of my neighbors, and always approaches one of the women and loves them up and pretends he's lost. And they phone me, and I say, no, he's not lost. He just likes to pretend he's lost because then he gets more attention. I'm sorry, I know I'm taking this off on another tangent, but every once in a while he comes home, he smells like another woman's perfume. But
He's
long story short, I just want to make sure if he does wander, if someone does pick him up, that I get him back because he's already been through a lot being a rescue, poor boy.
See, what the cat would like you to write on the thing is his favorite meals. If
Yeah.
they're like our pets, they would love, this is my favorite. After this, I would like a little bit more of this. Um, See, okay, so the cat agenda is that I hate cats has an agenda behind it. There's a reason. It's because they're highly intuitive.
Mm.
They're classed as one of the different ETs. And it's interesting because you're in Canada and I'm in Australia and we're in the Commonwealth countries, and the agenda of cats here, everyone hates cats. They kill birds. And I'm like, I never see our cats. Our cats are farm cats. They're outside. They don't kill birds. They catch rats and
Yeah.
snakes, but I never see them go and hunt a bird. If a bird flies into the window, that's different,
Hmm.
but I never see them eat birds. And then I, everyone around here says, "Oh, they eat all the native birds." And I said, "Birds aren't that stupid. They know where to sit on the branches so predators can't get them. Otherwise, we'd have no birds.
Hmm.
Everything would get them, not just the cats, the snakes,
Hmm.
everything."
Yeah,
But this,
so true. And
but it's
I can you imagine if I was stuck in the house? Well, actually, we have long, cold winters here. I do get stuck in the house. But, in the springtime, I want to get out and be in the yard. I want to be out in the fresh air. And my cats want that too. Plus, because they were rescues, they were both outside a lot before they got found and rescued. And so they know what that freedom feels like. And so, so anyway, I keep them in the winter when it's so cold, and then when the nice weather comes out and everything's in blossom, I let them out, and they're very well fed. So I would be surprised if they had room in their tummies for anything else. But even if they do hunt, that is the balance of nature. And they also eat a lot of insects. So, there's that too. But yeah, so anyway, I am very empathetic towards everything and everybody. And I just think they want to be out, they want to eat the grass and lie in the grass and sniff the flowers. And oh, how could I deny that from them? So anyway, long story short, so far I've been okay. And I do get the odd phone call. Do you have a little boy? I think he's lost. I'm going, no, he's just pretending to be lost. Anyway, so sorry, I didn't take it too off on a tangent on cats. But the other thing I was going to say is they are spiritually very in tune. And there have been times, because I'm very sensitive to different kinds of entities and energies. And there have been times, it's interesting, I have two cats, and when I sense something, they both immediately look up and in that direction. And they can see things that I can't see. I can sense them, but they can actually see them. And I feel really good about that. So yeah, so he's just wandered off now. He's disrupted enough. Now he's gone. So yeah, they're like having kids too. Oh my goodness.
but
So
they but they
go ahead.
tap into our mind. They tap into the energy of where we're at a lot, and
Yeah.
you to owning a cat and a dog is a very different experience. A dog is more giving, whereas a cat is it's a balance. It's you have to earn their respect, and vice versa
Hmm.
with the cat, and you can't force a cat. Whereas, sort of with the dog, you sort of, I don't know, train him more. Whereas a cat,
Yeah, you can
yeah,
coerce a dog more. I just want to add one more thing about my cat. So I have the one cat, she's a calico, and she's not very she might be psychic, but I have no real way of knowing it because she's not that cooperative. Now the boy cat, when I started letting him out this spring, I had a talk with him, and I literally talked out loud, and I said to him, listen, can you do me a big favor? I'm going to let you out, let you go play, but I'd like it if you could come home and check in with me, because last year when I let him out, he would be gone for hours. I was always worrying about him. So I said to him, do you mind if coming back and checking in with me throughout the day so I know you're okay and I'm not worried? And I would really appreciate it if you would come home in the afternoons and stay in with me so that I'm not worried about trying to find you late at night. And he looked at me and I got the distinct impression that he said, okay, he agreed to the terms. So ever since then, I let him out. He comes back every hour or 2 hours and he checks in with me. And whatever I'm doing, he jumps up like he just did a few minutes ago, and he lets me know he's here, and he lets me pet him a little bit. Then he jumps down, away he goes again. And then every afternoon around 4 or 5, he comes in and he stays in for the night. So, I mean, how, like, he is so psychic and so in tune with what I asked him, and so completely cooperative. And I have to tell you, it was a humbling experience, Elsa. It just was very humbling, um, that the animals, are way more telepathic than I think what we think, or maybe they understand the language. I don't know.
Well, for me, this keeps coming back to the topic of mind, is that they just is. They don't question it. There's no time delay. That's just, well, Karen just gave me that feeling that she needs me back. So, and I love Karen, so I'm going to come back. It's that simple. And it's that point that we're talking about is the mind in us. It's this part has been deviated or moved to say, don't trust that, don't believe that. This is what's really reality. And now we have to come back to that point, those few seconds, and come back to the sense of us, rather than the mind. The mind is great, but it has been mind. That's the reason they call it mind. Yeah, it's the memory in two. So if it's a memory in two mind, then that means it's been placed in us as a form rather than a from. See, the cat's tapping into messages from Karen, from the galactics. I can see a ghost. Whereas we're going, ghosts aren't real. I'm imagining things. So it's that split there.
Yeah, the gaslighting. And we get gaslit, and then I found I had to stop the habit of gaslighting myself, you know, um, just like I had to stop oppressing myself, like we take on these patterns. And, as soon as we stop gaslighting ourselves and start giving ourselves credibility for what we are experiencing, then I think it opens doors. What do you think, Elsa?
Yeah, well, that's that's allowing. So to allow I know I'm going on about the words, but it's all low. So you're allowing the from energy into you, like the little cat here. You're allowing the energy, and he trusts Karen, and he trusts where the energy is coming from. And then he can make his choice then where to go. Whereas if you're split off and the information is informed in you, meaning outlined for you, like schooling, the choice has been willingly taken away. You've given your will away. This is what they ask us to do when we cross over. Give your will. These words, these are to play on our mind, to play with our senses. So when a lot of channelers and galactic contactees say that they can't tell us all about the multidimensionals because it will literally blow our mind. That's what they're talking about. It will, if it's not done in a gradual process for many, it will literally blow their mind, because their whole reality that's been only in one like you said, will explode at once. And
Yeah, I mean, I've had elements of that myself. So, there's different aspects to the mind. Not that there's absolute divisions, but like for instance, I was raised, and how I used to believe is that what my eyes see is real, what I hear is real, what I feel or touch is real, and that's about all that's real and in the three-dimensional. And then we're given concepts through education and everything. But then I also realized I had these other things that were also real in my life, like a contact with different transdimensional beings, with being able to perceive things before they happen, coincidences and synchronicities, and on it goes. So I realized that a part of this technology, I think, is in our physical body and in our brain, but there's an overlap to the ethereal or the non-physical that also is a part of who we are. And so a lot of my experiences have been based on what I call belief systems. And the more I questioned what I was taught, then it's like jumping off a cliff with no parachute. It's really scary. You talk about the blowing of the mind. I've had my mind blown many times. When I realized that everybody on this planet has a different reality, that blew my mind. I had a really hard time with that. But it also set me free because it said, okay, that means there's a place for what I'm perceiving and that what I feel is real. And so I've embarked on a journey to explore. And I consider myself a bit of a map maker where I go out into the realms, and you do too, Elsa, and we explore and we have these experiences, then we report back. And we tell people, I found this to be safe. I found that to be a bit scary. I found that to be a bit challenging. And we sort of let other people know so that they can go out and they can sort of take our maps, right? And they can kind of go, okay, this is more resonates with me. I'm going to try this and try that and go to CE5 and or contact my deceased grandmother, whatever, right? And I don't know. I don't know. Do you see yourself as a map maker, Elsa? I see this one.
I your cat what your cat does is what we're doing. So we're going out and then we come back to base with the
Yeah, check in.
yeah. So by checking in with others has allowed myself to heal metaphysical things on myself
Mm-hmm,
and also help assist family and friends and neighbors in the area, whether they know it or not.
mm-hmm,
Um, but then it assists others, and then their energy comes back to us. So when they talk of mass consciousness, and I speak of the superorganism, and it's an intelligence. Once you get into this frequency, this is how we raise the vibration of everyone together. And what's happening is we give off a sense that is picked up by others. This is how we can tap into the mass consciousness energy. We can feel it when it's off or rattled or shuttered. It's like a
mm-hmm.
beehive, how the swarm, it talks. And this is what the animals do. They tap into that energy. They know when an earthquake's coming. They know all these things because they they don't doubt it. They don't have that time lapse.
Mm-hmm.
So they can
Mm-hmm.
they make an in from choice, not a told choice.
Yeah,
They get
I saw an account of, I can't remember where it was, but there were some elephants that were chained up in this tropical type island, and it was going to get a tsunami, but nobody knew that a tsunami was coming. And the elephants broke their chains and took off to higher ground, and the smart people followed the elephants. And this happened 2 hours before the tsunami. So you could say, how did they know that the tsunami was coming? And so I think paying attention to the animals is a really, really good idea.
We had, when we first shifted from the city to the country, Richard and I were in the office, and we kept hearing a frog getting quite angry outside our office. Anyway, we went and checked on it, and it was like 2 or 3 snakes trying to get into our roof. But it wasn't eating, none of these snakes were eating the frog. They wanted to get into the roof. 3 days later, we have a cyclone. 3 days.
And they knew.
Yeah, they knew. So they didn't say, oh, it's make believe.
They don't gaslight themselves, and nobody
No,
gaslights them either.
they go, let's address the situation. They don't overthink it, and they just use the tools that they have, and they get on with it. Like these people on this island, they were humble enough to say the elephant knows greatness, so we're going to follow the elephant. What's interesting is the elephant broke his chain, but he didn't
They
before.
all broke their chains. Yeah.
Yeah, but they could have broken their chains to be free earlier. That's another. So yeah, that's even interesting part of mind in itself as well. But the word mind and mood means the essence of Ta, the starseed energy. So when someone says you're in a mood, it means you're in your senses, but you just don't know what to do with it yet, or you do. So in our reality, when someone says, oh, you're in a mood, it's got more like you're angry or something. But mood is just your level of understanding your starseed, which I thought was really cute because
Well, it is. And I think that the greater reality is much more interactive, than we previously thought it was. So up until fairly recently, we've had our minds super controlled by the education system. Then there's social stigma and all the rules around, I guess I think I have to touch upon this. One of the biggest ways that they have suppressed us, they being the powers that be, that make the rules, is this whole idea of being identified as someone who's crazy. And this has been going on for quite a long time, even happens today. And so people are so afraid of being perceived as being crazy. They'll hide certain aspects of themselves and their experience and not share it publicly. And I think what that does, of course, is it keeps what I call the construct still happening and enabled. And up until recently, that was a horrible thing to be labeled as crazy. You could end up in an institution, you could end up with brain surgery. Of course, there's all the pharmaceuticals and stuff, and I'm not making medical claims here. I'm not a doctor, but I'm just saying that is a really big thing. People don't want to be socially ostracized. And in the past, to be socially ostracized could cost us our life. We depended on the community. Nowadays, things are a little bit different, but I'm wondering, what are your thoughts about that, Elsa? Ways that we're kept from freely expressing our not so common, maybe, belief systems or experiences.
yeah, this is an interesting topic because I'm my era, so I could have been put into a home, I guess, because I was over overthink, or not over, like seeing things and saying this out loud as a small child. So I was lucky enough that my parents didn't put me in as an asylum, because
Mhm.
once you go into asylum, a lot of unjust happens at these places. Not always,
Mhm.
but a lot does.
Well, generally,
Um,
your human rights are violated one way or another.
yeah, and they practice things that they don't know. They say they don't. Well, that's what they're practitioners. So practitioners are practicing things. I mean, we have to really
Mhm.
be honest with ourselves about this. One thing though I noticed as a mum, with our first child, Gemma, going to school, they kept saying to us that she had these alphabet diseases. That school teachers were saying this to us, not health practitioners or anything.
Mhm.
Anyway, they said she has disabilities in learning. And I said, well, Gemma's very bright, so we don't see this, what you're saying.
Mhm.
Anyway, we worked out it wasn't anything that they were saying or diagnosing her with, that they didn't really have the certificates to diagnose.
Mhm.
It was the lighting in the classroom. It was fluorescent lighting, and
Mhm.
she couldn't see words properly with the lighting. So we moved her to the window where there was natural light. Not a problem. But
Mhm. Mhm.
if we followed the system, she would have been on
Mhm.
medication. She would have been on a few medications, which then throws all the sensors out, throws all
Mhm.
your physics out. So we send our second child to school, Jack. He has disabilities. And the teachers start telling us all these disabilities that this one has. And he didn't have any disabilities at all. But but because their reality is over here, and
Mhm.
so they just play it out like a broken record.
Mhm.
But then they meet us, who say we don't agree or we don't believe with that.
Mhm.
What happens then is, when you have this mind who has a few realities going on, and then you only have one over here that has only have one, then you have the conflict.
Mhm.
And I know you know what I'm talking about, because these ones here, their world is crumbling, so they like fight for it. I think they call it the Mr. Smith effect.
Yeah. Yeah, I would agree. I was unfortunately I had a bit of a bad reputation. I was a single parent and I had health issues and I didn't have a lot of energy for nonsense. And so when I would get called into the school by the teacher, the principal, and they'd say, your kid's doing this or doing that. Um, I would say, no, 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 he's not. You're completely misinterpreting what is going on with my child. And so I would stand up for them, and I didn't care what the teachers thought of me. I didn't care. I didn't want um my children um being labeled in such a way that would, in the long term, hurt them. At 9 chances out of 10, I got my own way and everything worked out fine. So my kids both graduated from grade 12. It's not like they couldn't get an education. They did, and they did really quite well for themselves. But without me going to the school and saying, no, this is nonsense, and I put my foot down, I'm not standing for it. Um, I can remember my daughter, she wanted to take an art class, and the teacher told her she didn't have the prerequisites, so she couldn't take it. My daughter was heartbroken. So I called up the teacher on the phone and said, look, at least give her a chance, give her a project to do to see if she would fit well into your class or not. Don't just tell her no. And so I guess I bullied him a bit. I didn't mean to, but I just like to stand up for myself and my kids. So he gave her a project, a sculpting project, and she was fantastic. And she got into his class and everything worked out great. But where would she be if she didn't have bossy old mother to stand up for her. So I'm not saying that, like, I hope I wasn't disrespectful. I tried not to be, but I also really stood my ground. And like I said, I am so proud of my grown children. They are decent human beings. They're intelligent. They're capable of critical thinking, and I'm really glad that I stood up for them. But within systems, institutions, oh my God, they can be very dehumanizing. And so, sorry, I didn't mean to ramble on, but
No, no, no. Can I use it as an example to speak?
yeah.
Okay. So, all right. So the way I see it is this wasn't about your daughter or the art. This was about you as the special one that you are, Karen, is you healed the creative art teacher. And it was interesting that you said it was an art class because uh, uh, art is probably the only topic in school that I go, wow, this is really uh, tapped into spirit. So
Mhm,
you've come in and shown him or her a different reality.
mhm,
And you had to stand up for yourself. And this would shatter him or her and change how they do it next time with a student that they feel that way. So you've changed his mind. Do you see what you did?
mhm. Yeah, I
So,
did.
so with Jack, I was called into school and we had only just had another child. So I'd only just given birth. And Richard goes, you know that the teacher is asking for you. And I was like, I've just had a baby. And he goes, yeah, but she really wants you. And I said, okay. So I'm going into school, am I, to have this meeting with this teacher? I sit down with this lady and she just starts spieling off medical advice about what's wrong with Jack and all this stuff. And I looked at
Hmm.
her and I said, that's great, but none of those words are in our belief system. Jack
Hmm.
is very intelligent, like all our kids are. Um, and I disagree. Like you, I just said I disagree with what you're saying. I don't see any of that with Jack at home. So maybe there's something going on in the classroom. Well, as soon as I said that, I felt the shudder
Hmm.
in her. And she starts tearing up and saying how she can't fall pregnant. And she just wanted to meet me to see how I was falling pregnant. It was nothing to do with Jack.
Oh, wow. Can you
Yeah,
imagine if
yeah,
you didn't go in and get the clarity around that?
yeah. And then 6 months
Hmm.
later, she leaves. Jack says, oh, I have to get a new teacher because she's pregnant. So did I do it? Did I not? I don't know. It doesn't matter. But
Hmm.
it wasn't about sometimes when you get called into situations or something happens in your life, you're there to be that wholeness that you are and stay on your true sense and understand
Hmm.
how mind works. And then you're assisting others. Karen, you don't know how many children have gone through this art class that might have missed being in the art class. You might have changed their reality. But see, you don't know who you help, but it's
Yeah.
because you understand mind.
Yeah, just because someone of authority says something is a certain way does not make it true. And I stood up for my kids a lot in school. I mean, they had some ridiculous assignments that I would be helping them with their homework, and I couldn't even do, in grade 3 and 4. And one of them was to glue all these dinosaur bones together to make a dinosaur. Well, we had all these leftover bones. So I just had the kids decorate their dinosaur with these extra bones, and the teachers didn't appreciate it, and I don't care. So I'm really glad I stuck up for them. And I know that every time I stick up for somebody, it isn't that I'm right and they're wrong. It's there. Here's another perspective, using my mind to share another way. And I actually think that we help change the timeline in the long run that way.
I feel very much the same. I feel that um, we're not, by making a stance, you're saying, I understand where you're coming from because I understand that world, but this is how we're running it over here in your household.
Mm-hmm.
And this can work with this, but you have to come at fair trade, a fair frequency, so that we can arc together. Otherwise, it just
Mm-hmm.
won't work, and one of you will move off. And
Mm-hmm.
this is what we found um, with others is if they can't, if like whether our frequency is up here or down here, it doesn't matter. But if you can't come to an even frequency with each other, it doesn't
Mm-hmm.
work. It doesn't work anyway because
Mm-hmm.
you have that conflict and someone explodes or so. Um, by you standing up, you're giving them an opportunity to find themselves. And that's why
I
it's
never
so
thought of it
important.
that way.
Well, you have to, if you're not the fullest version of Karen and Elsa,
Mm-hmm.
and you're cutting off versions of your way to make them feel better, you've just stopped your path and theirs. But by you standing up, you've given this soul over here who might not see anything an opportunity to see all these other worlds.
Mm-hmm.
And that's how we raise the super consciousness intelligence, this organism of mass consciousness. And it's the creative ones generally that do this. That's why they've created with financial crisis and things like this. They've the creative ones have really been suffering for the last 2 decades financially, and yeah, they've taken a lot away from them because they knew that they were the ones that would be the game changers, literally.
Mm-hmm.
It's not the politicians or the traders or the doctors, it's the creative ones.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I agree. Denise adds, you couldn't talk to the nuns, they were always right.
Ah,
Oh, yeah, I find again, it's institutions are run by people that need to maintain a certain status quo. But I want to shift gears a little bit and go into the work that you and I do, Elsa. You know, we're on podcasts all over the world telling people about our experiences. Of course, we risk ridicule and a lot of people just don't believe us, which I think is okay. I don't expect people to believe me, but we're out there in the forefront sharing our experiences, sharing our learnings, our understandings, and alternative realities. And I think it's a very valuable work, especially with the rise, I should say, of AI, which you could, I mean, I don't mean to make this all about AI, but it is kind of on the forefront of what's happening in society. And we're offering something that's real, the real, not the machine learning, guessing, and fabricating that's coming out. What are your thoughts around the work that we do, Elsa, and how it sort of, in my opinion, offsets or balances out some of this AI stuff?
well, AI, how we believe it, mimics us. So if it's mimicking us, if we're behaving in a kind way, it will look to mimic us in this way. If we're not, it will mimic us in other ways. So
Mm-hmm.
it's no different to how we carry ourselves and
Mm-hmm.
stand up for ourselves. If you're not running your ship, and you're on default, well, that's what's going to happen with AI. It goes
Mhm.
crazy. It goes and
Mhm.
it yeah. So it just comes back again to self being aligned. That's what, and understanding that you're in a line and holding yourself straight. And are you walking straight, literally, straight spine, straight back? Or how are you carrying yourself? Because how you're carrying this body will tell you a lot about your feelings, emotions, what you're wearing. Because a lot of people that are being mined, you can see them wearing it in their body. How they
Mhm.
how they walk
Mhm.
around, they got the pressures of the world on them. When you start to stand up and align your chakras and your energy starts flowing how it should in your body, then the information that comes through won't be distorted. Yeah, so
Yep.
it's but this is what you see, like every time a cat or dog or animal gets up, they do a stretch, like a yoga
Yep.
pose, and they push out. They're so cute. I love watching them because I think, oh, he just did dog pose and he's a dog. But because they're stretching their spine out,
Mhm.
they're coming back into their body after a nap sort of thing. They're aligning themselves so that the information coming in, they can be really quick with it. Um,
Mhm.
and a lot of people who are in the mind zone, you'll see they walk forward with their head because they're out of alignment. Uh, it's it's funny how the words, um, your body, and the galactic, and then the animals. If you can start incorporating all these things together, you will be able to understand messages from the past, from the future, and you will start to have multi-dimensional realities play out, and you'll get to choose as a creator which ones you would
Mhm.
literally like a computer program.
Mhm.
when when we have very I'm gonna I've heard Brandon call them NPCs. We call them
Yes.
but we call them pedestrians. It's not a very nice name that we call them, but they're completely on default. They're called sleepers sometimes.
Yeah, I've met a few, and I actually don't know how to communicate with them because I can't step into their world and they can't step into mine.
Well, so uh, so you have those ones, and then you have those ones who are on an agenda. They have a
Mhm.
different flavor again because they're like on a mission.
Mhm.
And sometimes we have them turn up as the white car people.
Yes, yes, yes.
Yeah, and I talked about this once, I think, before on an interview, but we had an accident, not us, but we had many accidents on this road, Karen. But anyway,
Mhm.
there was an accident that we went and helped some people. And the first people that turned up was a couple that were undercover policemen.
Mhm.
It was a husband and wife, and they were my age, sort of my age, around 49, 50. And they were so cold. They were the first car that turned up to the accident after us to help these other people, but they didn't help. Not at all. Nothing.
Mhm.
And they just kept telling everyone that they were undercover policemen, and they were so robotic to every
Mhm.
family member that was off the side, that was, calling in ambulances and all this. They didn't do any of that. We've got little 10-year-olds doing, calling it phone call, and these undercover policemen are doing nothing. Before the ambulance arrived, they left, and they were like the mind ones under an agenda program, and they could not be around Richard and I for very long at all. And this is one thing, I'm sharing this with the audiences because I know you've gone through similar situations. You'll see them; they just cannot be with you. They will literally, you will blow their mind. Not through wanting to blow their mind or anything. It's just that your vibration is way, way different, way off than theirs, and they feel robotic. I actually, we videoed them. We've got footage of them because they were so weird. Under such a traumatic, situation for this couple that were in the car, to show no emotion, none, from the male or the female, was the most. So we had them and the accident. It was weird, but we got it, and you could see they were in such a state, a state of mind. It was so. You'll, in this disclosure time now, you'll see them, these ones coming out literally of those state of minds, whether they're school people, whether they're the person at the shop, and you'll find them become curious in you. Like if you're having all these experiences like we're talking about, or some of them, you'll find other people curious in you because they're looking for finding something in them. They're looking to find the other realities in them. Do you sort of, I know you would probably see this in yourself. Are you sort of seeing this in others, Karen, or?
I was wondering, do you feel that they have an agenda or a purpose? I find that my mind is always off on going down rabbit holes. I'm always wondering, how come this and how come that? So, I tend to ask a lot of questions, and they not only don't have answers or their minds can't go in that direction, they never ever thought of that, nor do they give a shit. Do you know what I'm trying to say? They're like empty vessels. I can't explain it. I kind of want to judge them. It's their journey. They can do what they want with it. But it just blows my mind. They have no natural curiosity. No, they don't give a shit. They don't. It's blows my mind. Sorry. Just want to say that.
Do you find these ones make eye contact?
It's more of a blank stare
Oh,
than
yeah.
than an actual, when you're interested in someone, you have facial movements and expressions and stuff. It's sort of a blank stare. Denise says, so true, beautifully said, Elsa. Thank you.
Thanks, Denise.
Yeah. No, it's more of a blank stare, just like it makes me feel icky.
Oh, it does.
Yeah.
It's an icky feeling. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, everyone talks about how they're coming out and how they're dealing with it, but they forget how it feels for us. It feels icky. Like, we were in this accident situation, and I've got our kids in the middle of the night in their jammies helping these people, and you're behaving like that around my kids. Like, lucky I wasn't the 18-year-old me, because I want to punch him. Be nice. Yeah, but you can't. You can't. Even if I did say something to them or did punch them, they would still be that. They've got to want to come out of it. But you're not,
Mhm.
you said you're seeing the blank stare. Wow. So, but you've still crossed their path. So the essence of Karen is still there with them. And so that might trigger them later on.
Hopefully, I'm not saying that I'm the best influence in the world, but I do have a very inquisitive mind. I'm always thinking about things and wondering about things. And I also get impressions from people. Sometimes I have to block that because an impression I might be getting from someone isn't any of my business. And it's not for me to waste my thinking, processing time on their issue. Do you know what I mean? I guess that would be like an internal boundary. But these beings, NPCs or NCPs, I get it mixed up, sorry. Uh, they're not interested. They're on a completely different wavelength. And
But Karen,
and
why is it that so everything crosses our path is a gift?
mhm,
So they cross before your path. I'm just wondering, like, because I said that you leave like a calling card.
mhm.
Um, it's weird, right? It is. I'm starting to think about what you just said in another way or another version, I guess, and it's weird because what if if we're not if we're not getting through to them, what's the point, right? But there must be a point.
I don't know. I don't know, Elsa. Like this is something very weird. Like for instance, when I leave or I'm no longer in their face or in front of them, it's like I don't exist. It's like I evaporate. I didn't exist. I don't exist. They give no thought to it whatsoever, and they just go back to their basic programming. And yeah, uh it's
It's spooky. That's
yeah,
spooky.
it is spooky. And I've also like I like people who are not afraid to express themselves. Like even if it's something I don't agree with, even if it's something I'm on the opposite, end of an issue. I don't mind the fact that people are bold enough to say how they feel or take a risk or say who they are. Great, because now I know where they stand. And I like to know where I stand with people. But
Oh,
these other beings, I don't know, and some of them are like Mr. Smith from the Matrix, and they don't give you anything. Like there's no feedback. It's almost like they're not even there. It's bizarre and it's very icky. And I don't hang out with them because I don't like them very much. And I hate to say that because it means I'm prejudging them, but this is how I
no,
see
no.
it.
You're doing the cat. So you're saying how you're behaving. No, I'm sorry. I'll have to go to the next house. So that's okay, right? But you said the key words. You said I don't mind the fact, and that's what they do because they're under one reality program or reality that they're being mined.
Yeah,
Wow, you said it.
and and these people often have children. So when my kids were growing up and they were going to school, they'd bring home their friends from school. And the kids who had parents like that, they would just stare at me in awe. And I'd say, "Why are you staring at me?" They say, "Boy, you sure are different than my mom." And I'd say, "What do you mean I'm different than your mom?" And they said, "You're not only different from my mom, you're different from any mom I have ever met before." And I would say, "Thank you. I'm going to take that as a compliment." And I was just being me. And, I get silly sometimes when I'm around kids because the kids kind of understand my sense of humor and I don't know. But they would so many of them would say, "Boy, are you ever different than my mom? I can't believe it. I didn't know moms could be like you." And I'd
Oh,
say, "Well," and I'd try to get them to explain, and it just sounded to me like maybe their parents are the NPCs, you know?
Well, you said another kid. This is so Karen for me because so you said they're in awe of you. That
Yeah.
so that word awe is a mining term.
Hmm.
So you have the minings, the mines, and then you have the quarries. And one was for ores and one was for blocks.
Hmm.
So the ore is the same word as choice point, which brings us back to the beginning of our conversation with knowing you have that choice. But
Hmm.
if you're in the thick of it all, there's no awe. So you're not in awe of it. You're just mind the fact because you're guarding it like a guard dog sort of thing over here because you
Hmm.
fight and they fight for it. They fight for it. They tell you you're wrong. This is the system. And they know it word for word because they've been practicing it for years. Or they're in awe of you. Do you see what I love this? This always
Yeah,
round on our
I
conversation.
loved it. I loved it. I loved it. Of course, I love kids, you know. I like kids and I love animals. Um, But I was going to say another thing that happened is whenever any of these kids had a problem, they'd show up at my door. Like, for instance, if they got locked out of their house and they couldn't get in and their mom didn't come home, they would come and stay overnight at our house. If they would show up in the morning to pick up my kids and they had no lunch, I would make them lunch so they could take lunch to school with them. So I had quite a few of these unofficial adopted or like foster kids, you know, that would often stay overnight or they always had a safe place to come. And then later when they hit puberty, they'd come they'd come to see me and I'd get out a big piece of Bristol board and a felt pen and I'd draw anatomy and tell them, you know, I mean, I'm sure they're getting some of that at school, but talk to them in terms that they understood so that they could take responsibility for their reproductive health. And, you know, a lot of these girls are only 12 or 13 years old. They sure don't want to have babies, you know. And so I would talk to them about all kinds of things. And so it was very interesting. So I don't know. I'm definitely not an in non-player character, NPC. I'm definitely not, but doesn't mean I haven't made a lot of mistakes. Boy, I sure have, and I've sure learned a lot. But getting back to our conversation, mind is everything. I think mind is something to be guarded, nurtured, um, taken care of, regardless of our perspective. I think it's a very special thing. We don't want to ever have our mind controlled or mined by other forces. I don't know. Would you agree with me, Elsa?
Yeah, well, it's my end, my end. That's it's also the word mayan, my end, and
Hmm.
it's in you. And when they speak of the ones, they're not talking of the ones meaning mass consciousness. They're talking of the ones in us. The Egyptians knew. They knew there was two.
Hmm.
Once you know there's the two and you could hear the mind, like by going into quietness, you'll hear other voices and things going on in your head. Ask, but work out where they're coming from. Are they coming from a
Hmm.
pain spot? Are they coming from a memory? Is it coming from a past life? Is it coming from start being with yourself so that you can see that in you. And then you start to work together. Then there's a balance. So then you have this arc in you, which you have, Karen, and then you take your balance, and then other people are attracted to this. And this is what those children were. And it's interesting that it was children, not adults. wasn't the parents coming to you, it was the kids, because they're freer of the programs at that age. Whereas
Mm-hmm.
as you get older, it gets more gooped up.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think so. So, Elsa, as usual, when I'm with you, our time whips by so fast. We're coming near the end of the show. But I want you to tell everybody, what are you up to? What shows have you been on? I know you've been on Dr. Joan of Angels. She just released the show she did with you recently. I've had her on my show and I've been on hers. I just love her to bits. She's such a sweetheart. I love her energy. But what other stuff are you up to? Tell us, and tell people where they can find you.
We're spinbeings.com. I, I, I do my best to get videos out. Sometimes, we have delays because of things that are happening in the family.
Mm,
We have Mary's videos coming out, which we've got showing on the channel with Sheila Seppi, and her this is called Ascension TV, or Conscious Awakening
mhm,
Network, and she's lovely. Um, Joan of Angels, we had a lot of fun on her show. She's like you. She's really playful with me, and it's lovely coming on and meeting people that allow me to be my fullest version of myself.
mhm,
Because a lot of the time, ones like us, we just have to tame it down a little bit, when you're out and about, because the kids, if I'm with the kids, they'll elbow me. I, they're going, you're saying, no, don't go there yet. Give me an elbow. Because, but when I meet people like yourself, Karen, it's so nice because I feel like all the butterflies are allowed to come out. Yeah,
mhm. Oh
it's a
yeah,
good
there's no
feel. It
wrong
feels good.
answer.
It feels
There's
good.
no wrong answer. There's no taboo subjects. I'm not gonna censor myself. I'm sure not gonna censor you. And
Yeah, it's
you
lovely.
know
It's
and
nice.
my show is not a news show. Neither of my shows are news shows. They are to uplift humanity and to give people an idea of how other authentic people are living, thinking, what we're doing. And I see us as being part of a community, a family, a global family. And
Mm.
I'm just so delighted to have met your acquaintance, Elsa, and to get to know you over the years. And yeah, I'm crazy about you, and I want to recommend you to everybody. So please, in the links below are Elsa's contact information and where you can find her. And please do subscribe to all of her stuff. Denise says, Elsa, thank you. I enjoyed you so much. And I want to thank Denise for showing up. She
Thank you,
always
Tim.
shows up. I am so happy every show I do when Denise shows up. I'm putting a tick mark here beside her name because I'm having a contest. At the end of June, I'm going to do a free giveaway with some orgone generators and some stickers and some different things. And so every time someone shows up in the live chat, I give them a tick mark on my little list, or I add them to my list so that I know how many names to put in the hat, for doing the draw for the giveaway. So yeah.
Ka-
So
Karen, so I have done one new thing that I'd love to share with your
yes,
audience.
yes.
So I've been doing small group meetings of 10 people, only 10, and there's a small fee of $10, and we just join, and there's a topic usually, and in this 10 group, it's not a one-on-one, but it's an opportunity of 10 to come together and address this topic, whatever the topic is for that. We've only done one so far, but it was very successful and had some really great outcomes for everyone that attended. So um, I, I'm putting it out there. If anyone would like to join, please send me an email through contact@spinbeings.com. so that we can, instead of doing a full one-on-one, it's just a little smaller version, a bit lighter. It's
Yeah.
not so intense, because
Yeah.
sometimes you don't want the intense. Sometimes you just want a bit lighter and the interaction. Whereas on interviews, you don't get the same interaction because it's, with an audience, but
Yeah.
just smaller groups. Yeah.
Oh, it sounds wonderful. Almost like a workshop, but more free flowing. So, those of you who are listening on an audio podcast or catching the replay, please do contact Elsa if you think you might be interested in small group information sharing. I think it would be very enjoyable, but also very informative. So, Elsa's got so much to offer. So I guess that's it for the show today. Again, I want to thank everybody that joined us in the live chat, and those that are watching but aren't participating in the live chat. You're just as appreciated. And yeah, so I guess that's about it. On Wednesday, I'm going to have a panel, and we're of Canadians, and we're going to talk about how we're reacting to the craziness, whether it's the weather, politics, you name it. We're not going to get into the politics. We're going to get into how we're coping. What are we doing to take care of ourselves in this crazy making environment? So you might all want to join us Wednesday for that. So again, Elsa, I love you so much. Thank you so much for being on the show, and all the links are below. Please do check Elsa out. And I guess that's it for today. So we'll just say goodbye, and I'll find my outro. And thank you again, Elsa. Take care. Bye-bye, everybody. Thank you for joining me for the Aliens and Angels podcast. Read about my true life ET contact in my book called Transdimensional Meet the New Neighbors, which is now available on Amazon worldwide. Subscribe to my YouTube, Rumble, and X channels at Karen Holton TV. The like button and leave me a comment. And please do share this podcast with your friends. Check out my website at www.karenholtonhealthcoach.com to see my free resources and amazing products and services. All of the links will be in the description below. As part of the Forbidden Knowledge Network, you'll also find the Quantum Guide Show with Karen Holton on all audio platforms. Until next time, keep up the good work.